2021 is coming to an end, and welcome to this special episode of Woke Watch. Now, over the last year or so, we've all heard the phrase, get woke, go broke. And it now appears that HBO and Sky Television are hell-bent on doing just that. On New Year's Day, they are airing a special to commemorate 20 years since the release of the first Harry Potter film. In Britain it was called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. American friends, help me out here. I think over there it was called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Now, I've seen all the films, but the thing I find awkward watching them back now is knowing in which film is it okay to start to fancy Hermione. I always say Deathly Hallows Part 2, you're fairly safe there. If you're thinking The Chamber of Secrets, you should be on a fucking register. But although I've seen the films, I've never read the books, and there are two reasons for this. Firstly, J.K. Rowling has never acknowledged she may have borrowed some of her ideas from my favourite author, the late Sir Terry Pratchett. There is an awful lot of Discworld-esque stuff in the Harry Potter universe, such as a school for wizardry and a talking bloody hat. Now, Terry borrowed heavily from Tolkien, but he admitted it. And the second reason is even simpler. I'm a fucking adult. When the first book was released, I was around 20. So why would I be reading something aimed at 11-year-olds? To this day, if I see an adult reading Harry Potter, my first thought is, are they a bit backward? But for the TV special, Rowling will only be appearing in archive footage, whereas all of the cast have been invited to give new interviews. So the woman who wrote the books, the woman to whom many of the actors owe their entire careers and all of their millions, won't be appearing. And many of the actors are once again distancing themselves from the author because she took to Twitter and has once again become the lowest of the low. A TERF. TERF. Trans-exclusionary radical feminist. I've said this many times. There is a fundamental difference between being pro-female, which J.K. Rowling is, and being transphobic, which she isn't. But of course that doesn't matter to woke people. She's also rich, successful, white, straight and cisgendered, the bitch. Although according to woke ideology, because I'm a straight cisgendered white man, my life is somehow easier than that of a billionaire author. Let's be honest, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson and Rupert Grint owe everything they have to J.K. Rowling because, let's be blunt, they're still making more in Harry Potter royalties than from anything they've done since. But all of them are trying to distance themselves from the author because stupid people have interpreted what she said as being transphobic. And that's before we get to the celebrity woke pillock Eddie Redmayne. Despite him being the lead actor in the much less successful Fantastic Beasts prequels, he's spoken out against Rowling. But woke people say that trans actors should play trans characters. He played a fucking trans woman. Fuck it, he played Professor Stephen Hawking. So it's okay for him to distort his face and pretend to be disabled, but it's not okay for the author to understand biology. So what has Rowling done now? Well, she's questioned the new gender laws in her native Scotland, which mean that I could go there with my beard and male, yes, male pattern baldness, and identify as a woman, thus taking rights away from biological women. So why does that matter? Well, as the author explained, it means that a man could commit the heinous crime of rape against a woman and then say he identifies as a woman. And that creates a legal shitstorm. Under Scottish law, the crime of rape is when a biological man has non-consensual sex using his penis. And under Scottish law, only men have penises. So if a rapist goes out and commits his dastardly deed and then says he's actually a woman, well, there's no legal precedent. And the UK already has some of the lowest conviction rates in the fucking world. And it also means, if the case got to court, everyone would have to address the offender using the pronouns she, her, lest they hurt his feelings. How have we got to the point where we're more worried about hurting the feelings of a fucking sex offender than those of his victims? And again, you may be wondering, well, does that really matter? Well, in a court case that took place last year here in England, which I'm going to be very vague about because I could bring a ton of legal shit down on me, A guy was being sentenced in court. He was being done because he'd been beating his missus. And as the judge was going to pass sentence, he said, "Your Honour, I identify as a woman," and his partner confirmed that he does occasionally cross-dress. So the judge, being woke as fuck, sent the guy to a women's prison. But it's not the first time he's been inside. Yes, he's a fucking convicted rapist. So a known violent sex offender was put into a captive environment, surrounded by emotionally and often mentally unstable inmates, all of whom were women, but they were in prison as well. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to what happened? Yes, sadly, that's what happened. And once again, this is one of the major problems with wokeness. This desperation to be inclusive never takes into account that there are evil bastards who will use these new laws to commit their terrible crimes. And then when they happen, the anti-everything brigade are screaming in the defence of the criminal rather than the victim. And Rowling has previously spoken out, saying that trans women deserve the same rights and freedoms as biological women, provided those rights don't encroach on women's rights. And I fully agree with that, and the vast majority of trans people will have no problem with it. But there are a few wrong-uns who will use it to their advantage. But woke people, they find it easier to believe in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry rather than fucking reality. That was a very dark video. As ever, thanks for watching.